TCU Baseball is still alive, and TCU football has a big weekend on the recruiting trail, landing 2 4-star commits. We'll talk about all that and more next. It's Locked on Horned Frogs.
You are Locked on Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked on Horned Frogs. It is your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. We're approaching 700 subscribers, which is really cool. You can also find us wherever you listen to podcasts on the various audio platforms. We are new to the SiriusXM app, which is really cool. So if you'd like to check us out there, you can do that. Again, it's Locked on Horned Frogs, wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And I put the bat signal out on Twitter today. I was like, hey, what do you guys want to hear about first? Because it's been a big weekend of TCU athletics. TCU football did some nice things on the recruiting trail. We'll get to that in segment 2. So if you want to skip ahead to around the 7-minute mark, you can do that. But TCU baseball, the majority of you voted and said you want to hear about baseball first. Frogs split 2 games over the weekend, so their season is still alive. They're still playing. It's a long path now to the national championship game, and they'll be fighting for their season again against Oral Roberts on Tuesday afternoon. But dropped a heartbreaker to ORU Friday, had a 5-2 lead going into the 9th inning, gave up 4 runs, and then ended up losing 6-5. Defeated Virginia today 4-3 in another heart-stopping game. Really well-played baseball game. And this is not surprising. I'm not breaking news here. This is not the most amazing analysis in the world. But everybody in Omaha is really good. Like, it's just striking how fundamentally sound these teams are. It's really incredible, the amount of arms that are there. You just have a lot of competitive, good ABs, so many good pitchers, great defensive teams. And honestly, I think TCU has played well, but there were some defensive mistakes that came back to haunt them in that opening game. And then even today, made some blunders on the base pass, not a completely clean game. But one thing this team does is they fight and they scratch and they claw. Got some timely hits today. Elijah Nunez had a big 2-out single that gave the Frogs a 3-1 lead. And then Austin Davis I think it was the top of the 8th inning, hit a double that pushed the lead to 4-2 after Virginia cranked a solo home run to make that game 3-2. So every time Virginia came in today and made something happen, TCU had an answer. Going back to that Friday afternoon game, TCU led really for the entire game. They were up 1-0 early on after a Cole Fontenelle home run. ORU strikes back. They hit a 2-run homer to go up 2-1. TCU tied it in the next half inning. They end up scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. ORU closer Cade Dutton, lost control a little bit and walked a few guys in. Trey Richardson took one, on the side of his hip that scored a run as well. So up 5-2. Luke Savage had just cruised through the 8th inning, felt really comfortable with him out there going into the 9th. And I think, the game-changing play, unfortunately for Braden Taylor, was ground ball to third. And looked like Braden had plenty of time to set his feet and throw. He just threw the ball wide. So instead of, 1 out and nobody on, Oral Roberts starts the inning with a runner on second and nobody out, a couple bloop singles, and then after a strikeout, a 3-run bomb, and suddenly the Golden Eagles have the lead. And TCU had their chances at the plate in the bottom of the 9th. Austin Davis was able to get a single. Elijah Nunez had a great at-bat and worked a walk. Carson Bowen strikes out, and then Braden Taylor, I thought it was a single off the bat when he hit it, but ball just stayed up there too long, and ORU outfielder caught it, and that was the ball game. And so they drop in the loser's bracket, but I thought they fought back well today. Cole Klecker pitched well on Friday. Sam Stoutenborough pitched well today and only threw 64 pitches. Kirk had a quick leash, but that's elimination baseball. He goes to Garrett Wright in the 5th inning with 1 out with runners on first and third and 2 outs, and Garrett got the job done, did give up 1 solo home run, but gave TCU a chance. Ben Abelt came in there in the 8th inning and got a 4-out save, which was huge, or a 5-out save, I think it ended up being, which was huge. And so TCU lives to fight another day. Now, one good thing about this, if you're wondering what the situation is, they have to beat Oral Roberts on Tuesday, and then they have to beat Florida twice. And so the off days in between the first couple games will help. I assume Kirk Sarloo said in his post-game presser today that everyone will be available with the exception of Sam Stoutenborough on Tuesday. So, I wouldn't think Cole Klecker would pitch, but you're playing for your season. It's like today, Sam Stoutenborough was cruising. He walked a couple guys, in the fifth inning, and you can't really mess around with that. Like, sure, Kirk could have stayed with him. Maybe he gets through 5, maybe he gets through 6, which would have been significant, but your season's on the line. So you have to have a quick hook with these things. I would imagine Cam Brown starts on Tuesday afternoon. He'll get the start, and then you hope you can get as many innings out of him as you can, and then you turn it over to the bullpen. And, Luke Savage didn't pitch today, so I'm recording this on Sunday night. He didn't pitch today, so he'll be available. Ben Abelt might be available for an inning or two again because of the off day on Monday. Hopefully Garrett Wright should be able to go some with the off day on Monday as well. The thing about this team, and I talked about it before the College World Series, they're not really built for this. Like, they're not built for the losers bracket because they don't have a super deep rotation, and they don't really have a really deep bullpen either. I mean, when it comes down to it in these high leverage situations, I think they got 3 arms that they trust. It's Ben Abelt, it's Luke Savage, and it's Garrett Wright. Now, the bottom line is, if you go deeper in this tournament, you're going to have to turn it over to some different guys because you just need other players to give you innings. But it's pretty clear that those are the 3 guys that Kirk trusts above anyone else in these situations. And again, you're fighting for your season every day now. So it will be tough. But if you can beat Oral Roberts, you have to go and beat Florida twice. And Florida looks like a really complete baseball team. They fell in the winners bracket game of their regional to Texas Tech, but then they ended up taking 2 games from Texas Tech. They swept South Carolina in the Super Regional, and so far, even though tonight's game was really close with Oral Roberts and they had to have a comeback against Virginia to win on Friday night, they are 2-0, and they get a couple days off now. So it's an uphill battle, but by the time TCU plays on Tuesday afternoon, there will be 6 teams playing baseball in the country. If they can find a way to beat Oral Roberts on Tuesday, then there will be 4 teams playing baseball by the time they play on Wednesday. And so it's been a special season, been a special run. I hope it keeps getting extended. And the bottom line is you can't really think about like, oh, we got to win 3 more games. The mentality just has to be, we have to get to the next day. So on Tuesday, it's going to be all hands on deck, try to get it done. And then if you're still playing baseball on Wednesday, that's fantastic. And you go with the guys you have available and you go with the guys you have because you don't have a ton of options here. You can't be, picky and choosy. This is the situation you put themselves in. But nice bounce back today from TCU after a really tough loss to get it done against Virginia and keep their season alive, and we will continue to follow them throughout the rest of the College World Series. When we come back, we'll talk about a big recruiting weekend for TCU football. Are the Frogs finally getting some momentum on the trail? That's coming up on Locked On Horned Frogs. I do want to mention FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of their no-sweat first bet deal. You can also just sign up and get a FanDuel account there. If you don't want to use that, you can use their safe, easy-to-use, easy-to-access app that's there for iPhone and Android. NBA playoffs are over. Denver Nuggets won the title, but that does not mean you cannot keep betting on FanDuel. MLB in full swing. Rangers keeping pace in the AL West, even though they had a tough week this week. Still 4.5 games up on the Angels, 5.5 games up on the Astros. You can bet money lines. You can bet parlays. You can make prop bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is the place to go. Again, FanDuel also has that safe and easy-to-use app. It's the official betting partner of the NBA and Major League Baseball, and you know why, because it's a good service, and it's a great way to make some money, and that no-sweat first bet deal is fantastic. You can put as little as $5 down and get up to $1,000 in bonus bets, and that's only at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. So if you've been following the show, you know that it's been kind of a slow start for the 2024 class from a recruiting standpoint for TCU football, but it seems like things are starting to pick up. And so far with this 2024 class, even with some of the, the bigger name guys, it's been a lot of players that have committed have been guys that I would say good evaluations by the TCU staff, players that they're getting in on early. Even a guy like Haas Haney, who went to the Elite 11 finals this past weekend, which is where the top 20 quarterbacks in the nation, according to these recruiting services, show up and compete. And he did a really nice job. He ended up as an Elite 11 finalist. And Brian Smith came on the show before, when this was announced, and he was like, I'm not really sure how Haas is going to do here because he's such an athletic kid. And a lot of this is more predicated on, can you make throws in the pocket? But he did a nice job in the 7-on-7 drill. He did really good and, throwing off schedule, throwing off balance. But my original point is Haas was a player, 3-star commit at the time they picked him up. He's now a 4-star. And it seems like he's just the type of guy that is going to get more and more hype as he goes into a senior year and as we get deeper in the recruiting process. Same thing with Travis Jackson. He's now a 4-star player. And, Travis, in fairness to him, he got a offer from Alabama right before he committed to TCU. So he is on a lot of people's radar. Tobias Steps, the tackle, not a ton of tape on him yet, but really good feet, really good frame, good size. Another guy I think is just going to grow as, the year progresses. And then they went even more off the beaten path a little bit by getting Julian Knox, who is now a 3-star prospect. He was not rated at the time that he committed to TCU, has been a backup quarterback at North Crowley for pretty much his whole high school career, but they expect to move him to corner and have him play defense at TCU. Super athletic kid, really long, rangy kid, and he's going to pick up more offers and will get more attention just because of his testing numbers and what he can do from an athleticism standpoint. However, this weekend, TCU picked up some pretty big names and some pretty highly rated players. 3 players in total, and 2 of those were 4-star running backs. It started on Friday night with Nate Palmer, the running back from Decatur in the 2024 class. A 4-star composite on 247. 247 has him rated as a 3-star prospect, had an impressive offer list: Arkansas, Arizona, Auburn, Baylor, USC, and others. As a junior, ran for 2,250 yards and 20 touchdowns. So you're talking about a guy that can chew up yardage and find himself in the end zone. Averaged almost 7 yards a carry. Also caught 30 passes for 308 yards. So a versatile guy, and again, found the end zone a lot with 8 touchdowns. Helped to cater to an 11-4 record and made a Texas 4A Division I state semifinal appearance. And then 2021, he was the District 8 5A co-offensive newcomer of the year as a sophomore, and he was at College Station before he was at Decatur, so has done it in different locations. But Nate Palmer, really electric guy. Watching his huddle film just reminded me of Aaron Green and Kyle Hicks a little bit with his ability to move and make things happen. In pretty good size. Not 6 foot tall, but that's not a make or break thing for a running back. 5'10" and 185, has a good frame. And as we say with everybody, Kaz Kazadi is a really good strength coach, and he'll be able to get him in the gym and get him where he needs to be. They also landed Jeremy Payne from Hightower High School in Missouri City, Texas. And again, a really impressive offer list from him: Auburn, Baylor, Boston College, Duke, Houston, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Oregon. The list goes on. Wanted by a lot of different schools, and commits to TCU after making an official visit this past weekend. And he had a really impressive year in Missouri City last year. His stats for the season: he had over 40 offers, had 1,000 yards as a junior with 13 touchdowns, also 320 yards receiving, and rushed for 1,442 yards with 10 touchdowns as a sophomore when he kind of bursted on the scene there. So 2 really impressive backs, 2 4-star backs, depending on what recruiting service you want to look at. And interesting that they're taking 2 running backs. Also have Cam Cook coming in this year. So this running back room looks like it's going to be really impressive over the next few seasons. And so we'll see how they go from here. But they jumped up. I think they're ranked 45th in the nation now on 247 Sports, and they were in the 50s, coming into this weekend. So, nice evaluations, nice players to pick up, and some really good athletic skill players, which is what Sonny Dykes is known for and knows how to use them. And then also landed Cole Sondergrass, tight end from the Woodlands, 6'4", 215. So good size on him. And again, This is a different type of prospect. He was not rated. Does have a few offers from Arkansas, or excuse me, wrong page there. But Cole has offers from Memphis, Central Arkansas, Arkansas State, and North Texas. So a little more of an under-the-radar player, but apparently impressed the TCU coaches at a recent mini camp and impressed them enough that they went ahead and made an offer, and he's just gone out there and made the commitment. So pick up a tight end, pick up a couple of running backs. Really nice job of the TCU coaching staff as they continue to fill out this 2024 class. I would expect more offense and defensive linemen, obviously, and then needing to land some receivers. The Bryant Wesco loss, at least a loss for now. They still have a chance there, but he's committed to Clemson currently, was a big one. And so you kind of regroup from a receiving room standpoint. But I like what TCU's doing on the recruiting trail. And, the talent development, the ability to find players, that was never a question in the Gary Patterson era. It doesn't appear to be something that Sonny Dykes struggles with. I think he's good at that aspect of it. You still want to land some big fish, and you'd like to see TCU do that in this class, especially guys in the trenches, because I think going back to that national title game, that was the biggest difference between Georgia and TCU. Georgia just had so many big hog mollies up front that kind of mauled and out-physicaled that team, and that's the next step for TCU football. And I think especially in the Big 12, which has gotten better but is still not really known for being a super physical conference, it could be a way to separate themselves in a huge way. But we're in year 2 of the Sonny Dykes experience, and so we're continuing to learn what kind of guys he wants to go after, and hopefully that's something they can improve on as time goes on. We'll take one more break. We'll come back and wrap things up. This is Locked On Horned Frogs. Final segment, Locked On Horned Frogs. Don't forget you can subscribe on YouTube. You can also find us wherever it is you get your podcast in its audio form. So TCU Oral Roberts on Tuesday. And again, expecting Cam Brown to take the mound, at least as a starter, and we'll kind of see where they go from there. Cam, people have kind of joked around with me, and I've talked about him a lot on the air, but he is the type of guy. Can't say I would expect it given what he's done lately, but he's the type of player that with his stuff, if he has good command, then he can go deep in a game and he can make something happen. Haven't seen it as of late. I will say his last 2 starts have been better. I mean, I think Arkansas, he kept them in the ball game, which is really all you ask him to do. And then against Kansas State in the Big 12 tournament, same thing, kept that game scoreless for a little while before they could, get to the bullpen and move things along. Goes without saying, but it would be great if the bats could wake up a little bit more and, get things done and give Cam a lead so he doesn't have to pitch in huge pressure situations all game. The one thing I am worried about is it seems like in both these games, the zone's been pretty tight. Like there's not a huge margin for error as far as throwing balls and strikes, and we know that that's where Cam struggles. So hopefully he can get some guys to chase, get some strikeouts, and have some quick, efficient innings. That would be big for TCU baseball. Again, they get that off day, though, and then, you can't really worry too much about playing Florida. You got to get there first. And so it'll be all hands on deck, and we'll see what they can do. But TCU baseball still alive. One of 6 teams left remaining. There will be one of 6 teams left remaining after the elimination game on Monday, and then they'll get back at it against Oral Roberts on Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for listening to Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day.